Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Sense International's Changemakers. Today I'm in conversation with Ricardo Zevallos, Director General Sense International Peru, and Claudia Miyahira Teran, Program Coordinator, also from Sense International Peru. In the conversation, we talked about the team's recent award for their youth at university and disability programs, their deaf, blind and complex disability education programs, and what they hope for in 2026. So, let's start the conversation with you, Ricardo. I'd like to know a bit about Sense International Peru's mission. Can you tell me a bit about that, please?
Of course, Alan. Good morning from Lima, Peru. Yes, Sense International Peru was created in 2009. Okay, and from the very beginning, we used to work closely with different actors, especially persons with blindness, their families, especially schools, mainstream schools, rehabilitation centers, associations, education units at the local and regional levels, as well as the ministries and the National Council of People with Disabilities. I mean, we try always to work with others to get a bigger impact on our regular and social interventions. That's the only way, Adam, we have found, okay, to work in a collaborative way with others to get more impact in our work.
And can you tell me, it's a question for both of you, so let's start with you, Claudia. What's your background of working with people with deaf blindness, and why is your work important, specifically around complex disabilities and deaf blindness?
My experience working with people with disabilities in general started when I was very young. I was about maybe 16 or 17. I had just started college, and I got involved with this group of volunteers that were working with society and other minor groups in order to get to a law project to get to the Congress. And I have always been touched and moved with the rights or the work with and for the rights of people with disabilities in general and complex disabilities. My approach to specifically deaf blindness has just started with the work with Sense International Peru, and it's been really achieving. It's been really grateful to get to know more and better about this complex disability.
Yes, and you've built that up over time, as you mentioned, that you started very young, and this kind of work is sort of in service of others, isn't it? And that's a deep sense of fulfillment, would you say? You feel very fulfilled.
Yes, full. Yes, totally. Yes, that's the word I was looking for to explain how I feel working in this field.
Excellent. And the same for you, Ricardo. Tell us a little bit more about the same question.
Thank you. Yes, I have a history, and I would like to share with you and all the followers. Okay, I don't know if you know that I was a chairman of a government organization called CONADIS, the National Council of People with Disabilities. And as a chairman, I had a board, a great composed by representative of the government institutions, as well as representative of the civil society organizations. Everybody working on disability. And I remember, Adam, that I had a representative from the deaf community, okay, seated in my board. But that guy was a deafblind person. So I was really surprised because he used a different way to communicate with the others through a guide interpreter. Okay, was not a common deaf person using an interpreter of sign language. That happened in 2001, Adam, more than 24 years ago. So this person, Adam, inspired me, okay? And I started some kind of research, being the chairman, okay, of the CONADIS in Peru. So his performance, his behavior inspired me, his communication way inspired me to develop an investigation and to approve the first ever resolution recognizing deafblindness as unique disability in Latin America in 2002. So that was my first understanding of this condition. And some years later, okay, I joined Sense International Peru in 2009, and I am the director. So I can tell that I identify a rare, strange condition different than deafness and blindness, okay, with special characteristics, with special needs. So being an authority in that moment, I had the privilege, okay, to recognize this condition. And then, okay, being as a director of Sense International Peru, that administered the resolution of the CONAIS converted into a law, into a national law in Peru. Now, in 2008, okay, this blindness was recognized as unique disability in Peru.
That's great, and I think just having those moments where you have a moment of brightness, where you sort of think, actually, I feel like I'm being called to do this work, and let me find out. As you say, you wanted to find out a bit more, and now you've managed to get the condition signed into law, so at least you have that behind you, so that when you do go and speak to Parliament or policymakers, then it's a little easier to have those conversations, because it's a recognized condition, isn't it? So that's brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you for telling me about that. And I went recently, Sense International Peru won an award for University Disability Program, and your work with universities is unique amongst Sense International's projects. Can you tell us how your work with them, how you worked with them, and what has it meant to the organization winning this award for the disability program?
Thank you. Yes, I have another history about this program, University and Disability Program. Okay, it happened during 2020. Okay, during the pandemic, we here in Sense International Peru received an invitation from the San Pedro University. Okay, this is a university located in the north of Lima, not in Lima, it's another region, Ancash. So they requested us a talk about deafblindness, okay, in the frame of the International Day of Persons with Deafblindness. And I remember very well, Adam, the interest of the students. Questions, comments, okay. So I realized that it could be something more useful, okay, and productive, okay, for the country. So we prepared, okay, a new program consisted in providing talks, workshops, conferences to the students about disability, inclusion, diversity, public policies, etc. And then we grew and included some talks and workshops for the teachers of the universities, okay, about the particular characteristics for every singular condition of disability. Then we included workshop on sign language, okay, addressee to the students, okay. We included as well some suggestions and recommendations to make accessible the university's settings. So this program had an evolution, okay, and was scalable, okay, and we reached different universities in different parts of the country. Today, Adam, we got more than 1,500 students, okay, who received information and trainings about disabilities. We signed 3 cooperation agreements, okay, with different universities to provide advice about how to make more accessible the universities, okay. We trained more than 500 teacher and administrative staff, okay, relating the rights of persons with disabilities. So all this impact, okay, we reached so far, okay, was recognized, okay, by the National Council of People with Disability in its annual national contest about inclusion and disability. So effectively, this year, Sense International Peru received an award, okay, from the CONAIS, okay, recognizing our university and disability program. So that encouraged us to continue working with the university because we have a dream, Adam. We would like that in the future, okay, the new professionals that today are students can take inclusive and accessible decisions. If we work with the university student today, okay, we can expect that in the future they can be more inclusive with the diversity, including persons with disabilities.
That's quite something when you can get the buy-in of the university when they go with you on that journey and they are really interested in what you have to offer, and especially making, I think the word I picked out there was inclusive, is making these spaces inclusive. So you're getting the teachers on board, you're getting the students on board, the students have questions, the teachers have questions, and that really adds to the weight of your work. And I think that's marvelous, the work you've done there for the universities, and an award well deserved, I think, especially for your work there. And Claudia, I've got a question for you next, and it's all around running sort of several inclusive education projects, and I'd just like to ask you about those, particularly around the impacts you've seen in the education for children with deafblindness and complex disabilities in Peru. Can you talk to me a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, this year it's been very challenging because we are working in several districts, and we have worked in also another amount of districts and regions. And so this year I had the opportunity to visit some previous regions that we have worked in the previous year, in the last year, in 2024. So I had some monitoring visits, and I got to know and got to know the teachers who were trained by Sense International Peru, and it was really interesting to highlight some points that I would like to share with you. And I would say that mostly what teachers feel right now after these workshops they have attended in person and later in a process of training that it lasts approximately from 2 months to 3 months of engaging and have this virtual assistance. And what they highlight also the most is that the impact and the change they have they have had in their mindsets about the attention to kids in general, in their diversity, also people's with kids with impairments, also kids with several with severe impairments too. So it wasn't something that it was shocking, even for the families, because that's another kind of problem we have here as a society. Lots of parents don't feel much in touch with people in their diversity in general. So it's very hard to them to accept this kind of living and having this yes, co-living in the classroom. So it was really hopeful to see that our work is actually having like how do you say that, things that you can actually see, that you can how what I mean. So this was one of the highlights I had, because it was a conversation with this teacher. And also in general, I would say that even, and this was a mainstream teacher, by the way. So another thing I really want to share is that even some teachers that are from the special education careers, and they have lots of years working with inclusive education and kids with different kind of impairments, lots of them have their language still attached to ways that somehow are excluding people, and somehow are making them feel different, and they also are very thankful to have these changes in some words that actually make a change, because language is very powerful, and it's really important in classrooms and in general in life. So this mindset of language, of being more aware of how to talk to kids, how to talk to their parents also, because parents is a very important actor in this whole inclusive education process that we want to help. We want to give them more strategies and tools to the teachers. And it's really important to also training them in the relation and the work they do with families, because some other times the first step where things are where things don't come so easily is in families, because a lot of families can't do not accept, as in the very beginning, they do not accept their kids may have an impairment of any kind, of intellectual disability or sensory or other. So it's very important also to work with teachers who work with parents and families, in order to do a real and a quality process of inclusive education. So it's been really challenging to start working with mainstream teachers and to try to train them with the knowledge the special education teachers have. So we've been facing a lot of situations, because there are a lot of ways to not. I would say it's not that easy to say that they don't like to work with kids with inclusive education processes and kids with impairments. It's not that easy to say that it's not that they don't like it, but it's a very strong culture of, for example, the amount of kids in the classrooms, that you don't have any more time or any more strategies to attend the entire classroom. So sometimes they have this, they do not accept very well to have a kid with some impairment in their classroom. So it's been really challenging for us to start the training processes, just trying to make them change their minds about a real inclusive education process that is supposed to be in the entire country, in all the levels. It's been very challenging, but very fulfilling job also, because we have seen some changes from the beginning, from some teachers that maybe they were not too interested. Maybe they just come because some of the head of the school says, no, maybe you should go. And by the end of the process, they are like, they have connects with the topics. They have really thought about it. They have really they have the compromise, and they have really got involved with this process. So as I was saying, it's really challenging, but it's also really fulfilling. It's really, we have seen some changes that is the most important thing for the education in general. I mean, it's also time for us to stop thinking these two sides of inclusion inclusion education and regular or mainstream education. It's just would be nicer to start talking about education in general, to talk about inclusive education too. So I think that would be our highlights. Maybe I talk too much. I'm sorry.
Not at all. It's great to hear you talk so passionately about what you do, and you're definitely working on a culture shift. You know, you're shifting the culture of how people talk about children with disabilities, and it's changing hearts and minds is definitely a big challenge, especially
Yes.
around the language, especially as it's
Yes.
been part of the culture for so long. I mean, over here we're by no means perfect, but we're working on it, and there's definitely more inclusivity happening now more now than ever. And it sounds like you're doing some fantastic work there to shift that culture, to
We're
change the
trying.
language.
We're
Yeah,
trying.
yeah. And that's as best you can do. But if you can get your key people to back you up on that, which sounds like that's growing, they can really help you and drive that movement forward, and hopefully drive that into 2026, when it could be the best year ever. Who knows? And just talking about 2026, I mean, New Year's resolutions, I'm sure we're all going to be thinking about it in January and all those sorts of things. Ricardo, what would you hope to see in if you had one thing you'd love to see in 2026, what would that be? What would that be?
Thank you, Adam. For Peru, of course, we would like the best. Okay, we have general elections next year. We will get a new government. Okay, thinking from the social field, we would like that the new government can invest more funds. Okay, in social programs for vulnerable groups, and especially people with disabilities. From our position as Sense International, we would like to continue working in Peru, okay, with rural and Amazon areas, Adam, because unfortunately, my country concentrates its interventions in the main cities, okay, of the regions, okay, but there are provinces far away from the main city that are not receiving anything. So we would like to continue supporting them, okay, with our programs and interventions. And also, I would like to contribute as a Sense International with our local partner in Ecuador. I don't know if you know, Adam, that we are working for the last year in Ecuador, okay, trying to eliminate the barriers we have found in that country. It's the first time ever that Ecuador is talking about this blindness, okay? And we are working very hard with our local partner, Hermano Foundation in Ecuador, okay, to contribute in in eliminating these barriers, these bureaucratic barriers, attitudinal barriers. So I really will, okay, to continue working very hard, very close with our local partner, okay, to see in the near future, okay, a robust, okay, a group of persons with this blindness, okay, advocating for their rights, and some government institutions also including some programs with the deafblindness approach. That's my resolutions for next year.
They're really admirable, especially trying to reach those hard to reach people and areas, and going beyond your borders, your country borders as well. That's I can't wait to find out more when it comes up later on, and hopefully we can do another episode about that a bit later, about your work and reaching across borders. And how about you, Claudia? What would you like to see in 2026?
Well, we were talking with Ricardo some minutes before, and I was telling him that I think that for 2026 I would like to keep achieving more goals in what means these training processes with teachers and professionals who are involved with the education process with kids. We have found that this capacity is still not full achieved. There are tons of teachers that keep asking us for new workshops, for new process of training, and I think for 2026 I would love to keep looking for them and to reach them actually with this training process that I've seen that they are really helpful and really important. So I would love to keep with this process.
So there's a common theme there between both your resolutions, which is reaching further and reaching more people than ever before.
For sure.
And yeah, that's superb. That's superb. So as we bring this episode to a close, I'd like to ask you both for what would be, if you had one standout moment from the last 5 years that stuck with you, where you thought that's significant and it's had an impact on you. What would that be, Ricardo?
Thank you, Adam. I have also another history I want to share with you and the followers. You know, Adam, that one of the most important strategy for Sense International in general is the advocacy. So from the very beginning, we worked by using the advocacy with different government institutions. We have approved the profile and requirements for the guide interpreters, and we have included those aspects into the national catalog of the training programs, okay, of the Peruvian government. That means that today, any higher education institution can offer, okay, the training programs to form a guide interpreter. So we are really happy for that achievement. Okay, we reached that, Adam, and I feel that that was in the last 5 years one of the most important moments for our organizations.
To have that influence, to influence those decisions, to say this is the way we're going to do things, and it's based on your standard, and that is quite something significant, isn't it? And I can understand why that would be your standout moment for the last 5 years. Claudia, how about your standout moment from the last 5 years?
Well, I have started working with Sense International Peru this very year in January. So I am basically about to be 1 year. But I would say it's been a year a great year of working with this team and in general what we do. But I would say a moment to and standout moment would be the interviewing and talking with mothers who have received this virtual support of psychologists and therapists, and that we have been included in 2 projects right now, and it's been heartwarming to hear them that for the first time they have this space to talk about her feelings, to talk about their process of parenting kids with severe disabilities or multisensory impairments, to be heard for the first time and to have a space to talk about how they handle her emotions, because basically are mothers who have all the weight of the parenting and caring, you know. So it's been, I would say that would be my moment to talk with not one but several mothers who, even in tears, they have expressed their thankful, their gratitude to be for the first time in a process like this, that for instance they never heard that it wasn't her fault to have a kid with an impairment. So it's been crazy, and it's been really heartwarming to share this moment with them, with the mothers who have received this virtual emotional support. So I would say that would be my outstanding moments this year. Yes, been great.
To hold that space for the mothers, and I can imagine it is quite a moment to see them. I appreciate they're in tears, but hopefully there's tears of relief that they've actually, as you say, been
For
heard.
sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
To be heard, and also to know that they are not alone. They're connecting with other mothers, much
Totally.
and
Yes.
in the same situation, and they're
Mhm.
starting to build that little community, that little network that could help them. That's so lovely to hear. That's really, really wonderful
Yes,
to hear.
it's been great.
This conversation has been absolutely eye-opening. It's been inspirational to listen to you both talking about what's all the work, the fantastic work you've been doing, and I'd definitely be up for having a further conversation sometime in the future. And I just love to extend my thanks to you, Ricardo, and to you, Claudia. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you to you, Adam, for the opportunity.
We could hear some really clear themes coming out in this episode. Changing cultures and views around people with disabilities, creating spaces for inclusive education, and holding safe spaces for people, particularly mothers of children with disabilities, to talk and get support from. Thank you again to Ricardo and Claudia, and for you for listening. See you soon for the next episode.